Hello everyone, it's Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo for another Let's Play Kerbal Space Program, and in this episode, we're starting off right where we left off, and that's with Jebediah and his tourist, Ronfred, sitting on Minmus, and pretty much deciding on if they're going to come home or use some of this immense amount of Delta V they have to move themselves into an area where they can get more science. And I'm just fixing staging over here because we are going to be taking off shortly, and I'm deciding, what am I actually going to do? Am I going to land, or am I going to land again? Am I going to find a new home, or am I going to sit here? So that's pretty much where we're at right now. It's deciding, what are we doing? Where are we going? How are we going to do that? So Minmus has actually got some pretty small gravity. I mean, it has got a tiny amount, like a thimbleful. So I decide that we're going to push this thing to the pole, because the pole has some pretty amazing science, right? At least you hope it does. So that's what we're trying to do. And then I say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't go to the poles. Maybe I should go over here. So I'm trying to get an idea of where the best place to go right now would be. And I'm deciding, like, maybe I just want to put down on like a highland or something. Maybe that's what I want to do. So we're going to try to put it into an orbit and decide where we want to go and land from there. And that's where we're at. So missions like this, you should think of in this way. Is it good enough just to complete the mission? Or really should you go out of your way to do as much with all the Delta V you have in your spaceship as you can? So what you want to do is you want to keep going back to the Space Center and seeing, did you get any new missions while you were up gallivanting around the solar system? Because you might be in a perfect area. Like right now, what if we got a mission that said to transmit or recover science from above Minmus? Wouldn't that be something that you'd want to know? And because it takes days to go back and forth to Minmus, you may see some missions come and go that might say things like that. You might get one that says plant a flag on Minmus, and you've already taken off, but you have all this Delta V, so really it's just, let's set back down again and see what's going on. Now that's something you need to keep in mind, and something that you should always be thinking when you're playing this game if you want to maximize the benefit or maximize the potential that you get from every spaceship that you send off somewhere. So I'm sitting over here thinking, am I going to take it back? And I decide, yeah, I'm going to take it back. So this is going to be your standard return from Minmus video. But what's going to be at the end of this? Because coming back really isn't a reason to create a whole new video, right? Well, we'll see what happens after this, okay? Because we're going to talk about Tech Tree, and then we're going to talk about how we can enhance every mission in a way to make that makes sense. So we didn't get any more missions to do, any more data. Plus, we had Jebediah with us, right? We didn't have Bob. We didn't have. I don't think that we hired any other scientists at this point. So there's always this thing to do EVA reports, and EVA reports are very simple. You go out there, you take the data, and then you send it back. You always want to send them back because you don't lose anything for doing so. See that? That was one of those EVA reports. Oop, we had one more that we could have sent back. And sending things back is actually free when you have something that is as wonderful at creating electrical power as this one is. These solar panels are just kicking butt on this tiny little spacecraft. All right, let's speed her up and let's get her home. And sorry for the silence there. Life goes on when I film these videos, believe it or not. Had 2 birthdays in my immediate family and friends group, my brother and my best friend. So just getting the thank yous for all the happy birthdays that I just sent out. All right, so here we go, and that's it. we have a way to actually get home, circularize our orbit, and then get back to the ground. With all that all worked out in our head and on paper, I should say, and also fired off, let's go back here and take a look at things. I definitely wanted that mainsail engine, and I've got enough science to get nothing else, right? I'm just going to look at what else I can get. We should be bringing back like 400 or 500 science when we land, but there are quite a number of things. Like, we're definitely going to want these capsules, right? That makes absolute sense, right? Because we want to be able to take more than one person into space at a time. But it's a heavier capsule, which means heavier ships, which means having to design things a little bit differently. But those capsules also, we have the bigger lander can, so we can make things that look kind of Apollo 13-ish. And there's some parts that we have that actually help us with that. So we have quite a number of things that are here. And we're going to go back, and we're going to just take Jebediah home and figure out how much science we're going to get from this all. So it's becoming more and more apparent how botching that last mission up is affecting every other mission I have. If I was thinking about having like these two teams, one being Bob and Valentina, and the other one being a scientist that I would hire over at the Astronaut Training Center and Jebediah, and then build a third one at some point. You're going to need to have many more scientists and a few more pilots as time goes on, because you're going to be getting science pieces that you could build into space stations and you could call them outposts, spacecraft that you land on a planet for the sole purpose of it being like a outpost, being a place that people can go and live in. So these things that we're doing here actually cost me, because now I don't have that that vessel that's just sitting on the moon that could transmit back those easy transmit science from the moon back to the Kerbal. But then again, I totally forgot about that first mission that I showed you about landing on the moon, which is landing a lander that's just sitting there and hanging out. So remember those things. You want to have satellites, you want to have landers on different places, just in case you get a mission that says transmit or recover information from the surface of the moon, from Minmus, from Duna. It's always good to put a lander there and leave it just in case, because you can get some really quick cash for absolutely no dollars spent. So here we are, just pointing our ship in the right direction. And I really wanted to save the engine and everything, but I'm thinking even with the 3 parachutes, I'm going to be going too fast. So I'm going to get rid of it, and we're going to set down somewhere. I believe every time we land, it's always in the water. Now, we wound up taking that solar panel that didn't go away. So had we done that, had we gotten the ones that stowed, we would have actually made a little bit more money back from the ship. But because they got destroyed from the re-entry process, we're not going to get money for those 2 parts. All right, so we're setting down, and let's go see what we got as far as science-y stuff. Oh, God. Jeb's trying his best to keep it flat. And there we go. And he sets down, and we're done. Let's click the recover and see what we got. Oh, the blackness of waiting. I can cut this out, right? Nope, you should have to wait like I did when I waited for this. So that was 615 science for that mission. That was amazing, right? And a lot of it was transmitted back, so we probably got close to 1,000 if you think about it, because I think we probably transmitted back 3 or 4 crew reports, a couple of EVA reports, and that was an amazing mission. I really, really enjoyed it, and it gave us a ton of science, reputation, and it should have given us a boatload of cash too. So we do have a boatload of cash. Look at that. We have so much cash, we could hire people and we could upgrade different pieces of the Space Center. So let's go move on to the last piece. All right, we're back in the R&D center looking at the things that we can take. And we're going to take some aeronautics stuff. We're going to take some adapter stuff. Then we're going to start looking at this 160 science points items. And we're going to take the ones that I was thinking about. And fuel cell, I don't know. really want that. But I don't have enough for it. The bigger solar array, yeah, we're going to have to work towards that. We're going to have to figure out how to get this science back to us. And a new probe. I got to figure out the difference between these probes, and we'll talk about it next time. But we have one more thing that we can buy here for 160. We got a couple of different tanks and stuff. Reaction wheel, large one. What I really like is a large probe if I can get one. Because a large probe body, I could start launching fuel containers into space and start using them with a space station. So there's a lot of things to choose from here. And when it comes down to it, the adapters, the big cone adapters, this looks like something that would be possible to use. Like this one over here, the protective shell was important. This one's a bigger one. The fuel, I don't know if I need these. I'm not making tiny little probes yet. There is an opportunity for me to do that. Like I had the probes on. I like to build tiny little probes from time to time when I go on missions and just launch them from the spacecraft. I'll use a larger spacecraft to put them into orbit. But I really want to get these things down here. I think that's it. The science processing plant. That's what we're going to go with. All right, so we're set up for the next piece of the video. And the next piece was this. So I failed to record, or I should say I did record, but I botched it. The building and the launching of this. And it's just very basic. It's supposed to be a space station that you put in orbit. You had to put one up there that could house 5 Kerbals. You had to put one up there that had power generation. Pretty much completed it and got it done. So this is a space station. It's very, very, very basic. Very basic. It has RCS on it. A ton of it. It has a materials bay on it. It has fuel on it. It has a docking clamp junior on the front with some lights so you can see who you're docking with. It has a cupola on it and a hitchhiker can. That's it. A very basic, very useless space station. No science processing. Nothing really on it. And as we go around and we look at the different pieces of it, you can see, even in here, we have some cool stuff. Just in case. There is science in there. There's lots of batteries in there. Enough to keep us up here for a while. I don't have the life support module mod put in here. Otherwise, we would have that in here so they could live for a while. And essentially, what I did after this was tried to create another vessel to complete another one of my missions, which was to rendezvous 2 ships in space. As we get back into the VAB, you can see right here, this is the ship that I used to launch before. So that's what's already up in space. So I have to build something now. So I'm going to cut here and I'm going to get to the end of this to show you exactly what we built. So I have this big orange tank. We have a couple of smaller engines along the side of it to give it some sort of a lifting capability. I'm using the Skipper engine on here, which is an amazingly efficient engine. If you're going to launch something this small, you do not need a mainsail. The Skipper will be enough. And it's four of the Reliance, and they're in an asparagus setup, which means that the outer tanks will go first, and then the inner tanks, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm just setting up the asparagus. And this actually proved to be an extremely efficient rocket, and it's what I might launch quite often as a tug. And tug would be much different than what I have built on this ship. And what I mean is a tug would be something I would launch into space, and it would be mostly RCS thrusters on it, maybe 2 sets of RCS thrusters and 2 of the smaller, not smaller, but larger RCS tanks on it, which are kind of the size of the tank that we used on the service module of our trip to Minmus. So I play with this a little bit and I decide let's launch it. Let's see what happens with our launch, okay? Optimally, you're going to launch when the other vessel that you're trying to connect with is going to be almost overhead, but I stink so bad at rendezvous right now, it wouldn't matter if there was a magnet strong enough to pull me from the ground right to it, I would miss it. So the ship has a little bit less thrust to weight ratio at the base, But it does get up into the sky pretty quickly, and like I said, it's extremely efficient. That skipper engine is just incredible. Think of this as the Saturn 1B. They're the ships that would be taking the Apollo astronauts up the Skylab. So, not that many stages in here, and Kerbal Space Program does not allow for staging high very well because of the wobble effect that it gets from very tall space ships. It doesn't really see the joints as being fully connected, and this mission will show that at some point in the future in a later episode. So here we are, full fuel at 7,000 meters, and that's what I meant. We're at 7,000 meters with full tank, a full orange tank, and a little tinier tank at the bottom for a skipper engine. That's more than enough to get us into orbit. We are not using MechJeb at this point. I'm trying to do this on my own. So what I am using is Kerbal Flight Engineer, which is one of the most important mods for you to have. If you were only going to have one mod, that would be it. If you were going to have two, it would be that, and it would be the docking port alignment mod, which doesn't do anything but give you a better way for seeing it. With the new view, though, that they have now, which is the locked view, if you hit the V key a few times, and I do not use that here because I didn't know about it until watching one of Scott Manley's videos, the locked view is the biggest change that this has had. The biggest change that this particular game has had since it started to help docking. That locked view is incredibly amazing. So you can see that we're going to be past. So what I should be doing is going just below this guy's orbit, and I think what happens is I go a little bit above it. So we should be fine, and I'm going to speed this one up a little. So here we are, pushing out our orbit just a little bit. And you can see the planes are not matched up. I'm trying to match it right now, but I'm screwing the pooch on this. Trying my best to make it work. Just not getting it. So we're going to fix the node here. We're going to let ourselves get closer before we start firing. And we're going to make MechJeb do this. And we should be in orbit just momentarily. And there we go. Fired, and that's it. That's the whole ship right there. It's not so bad, right? Tiny little solar panels, RCS thrusters around the base of it. And all this is a crew return vehicle, crew transport vehicle, replenishment vehicle, whatever you want to call it, for that space station that we made. Now, this does have a couple of flaws in it. The physics, because I had been playing the game all morning, the physics engine are actually getting way messed up at this point. So we get ourselves and we find our intercept points, and that's something that we're going to have for the rest of this episode. Not this episode, the rest of this mission. We'll probably have one more... yeah, it's probably going to be one more episode to actually complete this. So you can see where our closest point of intercept is right there. And we're just going to set an alarm clock for that. And, you know, these missions seems like they could be boring at times when you're talking back about them. But, man, are they fun when you do them. So you fly around the planet until you get a really close intercept, and then you fire in the opposite direction of that intercept to bring it even closer. Then you come up to that point after you fire, and then you match velocities with the target, and then you use your RCS thrusters to approach it and then dock with it. That's essentially what we're going to be doing. So, folks, that is where we're at the current time. There should be one or two more videos before I start producing new content. I have done this over the last week and didn't think I was going to continue the Kerbal Space Program series because really my effort in the Star Citizen area is what I like the most at this point. But, Star Citizen is in that lull waiting for 2 major releases, and there's not a whole lot coming out of them. And I'm really having fun with this game, and I really enjoy it, and hope you don't mind me sharing my fun with Kerbal Space Program with y'all. All right, let's end this episode, so you all be safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon.